Hello and welcome to Kink Ed or Kinked. This is going to be the YouTube show. This is our first official episode. Our online Kinky campus is going to be shown to you. Basically, it's where we're putting all of our kinky knowledge. Our TikTok audience is with us during the filming of this. This is a bigger YouTube video that is often easier to upload onto certain social medias and easier to share. We're going to go over some of the places that you can find the information you're looking for kink education. Our tagline is brought to you by kinkforall.site, the only site you'll need for BDsM knowledge. And I want some comments for those watching. Do you guys think that the smaller s is okay? I'm using that for submissive. I know it can stand for sadist as well, or slave. But I thought, and the slave would mean something smaller, but I know sadist is a sticking point. But usually a sadist is submissive. So I think the smaller s is kind of a cute thing in the BDSM. And I'm bringing this up now, not just to get your opinion, but to show that there is no right way to do things in BDSM, but there are wrong ways. And that's where knowledge and education and the reason for this show is being done. And we're just going to show you where we do it, go over a few things that we did this week. So why don't we jump into it? So we're going to get to work right now. Starting off here at the Kink Educator on TikTok. This is something we'll come back to in just a few minutes and go over some of the videos. It'll give me a break to rest my voice. But first and foremost, we want to get to Kink for All. This actually has, right now, a lot of those videos easily sorted. Education at the tip of your fingers with BDSM 101, which is the basics. But before the basics, there's always stuff you should know, even before you try to go into a community or an event. And that's where BDSM 001 comes from. You shouldn't do advanced concepts until you've burrowed through the bigger ideas of all the things listed in here. Of course, we have our Kinky, which we call the, I don't know, here it is. I'm looking at our hashtags. The ever-evolving Kinktionary up here. You can take the BDSM test. You can do our alternate TikTok, the free hugs and spanks. We have Reddit pages. We have the comic book I created that started this whole endeavor of being an educator for kink. At least in comic books, I'd done it before that. You can find us on YouTube and on Kink. And right now we're live on YouTube. You can see the munch topics that we have up here that will change and everything we recently released, including Dipe today turned into Diaper on our site. If you're a TikTok follower, you've already probably seen that video. But it also explains why we expanded on it. Our content continues. We're constantly updating this. It's not daily, but it is constant. So this is the best place to jump in to finding the other topics and videos, as opposed to trying to watch all the videos in order. On TikTok and other places, we'll be finding things, including news articles that we will be sharing. So stay tuned for more. And if you want us to put together maybe a topic with all the videos and information we have, we'd be happy to do that. And you can reach us simply by going over here in our menu. We have kinkeducator@gmail.com. So really simple. Definitely want to hear from you. And like I said, we're going to go back to the TikTok in a few minutes. We just wanted to show off that Written Sins Presents Verbal Sins is going to be hosting these type of conversations. As you can see, we had kink talks. But instead of going back to doing kink talks, which we might for themes, I want this to be kind of a weekly show to go over things. I'm trying to commit to the idea of a weekly show. Maybe we'll do it monthly, depending on how people enjoy it and what they want from it. User and viewer and student feedback is always important. I look at the TikTok channel that we're going to be looking at today as an education place where I try to be as formal as I can be. We mix in some humor, you don't want a dry teacher, but I try to be as serious as I can. And like many people, I struggle. I will tell you that right now. I'm always going to struggle with exactly how to teach, and we'll go over that today, and I'll ask your opinion as the audience. This is me on Facebook. I don't really like Facebook, but I do go to Facebook very often. And we're going to talk about all the stuff we talk about is going to wind up on Facebook just to get us to a bigger audience. But I'm constantly getting grief on that, especially with the kink education. And then we have You can find me on Twitter. Twitter, I'm not that active on, but if you're curious, it is there. And we even have our Google Docs that is the beginning of what becomes the website. We are on Instagram. Again, not huge on Instagram. It's not really something I just haven't cracked the nut. It's nothing against Instagram. I just haven't found an audience there. So I almost feel like I don't really need to use it. We are experimenting with Instagram threads now. And this is just our logo for the show. Now I'm going to quickly jump over and I'm going to let you guys listen to some videos from us. And I want to start off our show with one that, to be honest, and full disclosure here, I'm going to quickly just switch our screens so I can share the volume with you guys. So let's see, we have to do a custom tag, and really hoping this works, by the way, because we did have a problem. Here we go. Oop, wait. I gotta give me 1 second to make sure that that's set right, because apparently there's a step we have to take to make sure you guys can hear the audio. So we want to make sure that we set it up so you guys can hear the audio. So once again, we're going to do the screen share and then also audio. Okay, good. So that's on. All right, so here we go. All right, so you guys should be able to do it. Now I'm gonna start with the controversial one. This is something I created and I want feedback for this, and hopefully the TikTok audience that's live can actually interact with us, so can give the real feedback. So when I created this, I'll just say this. It kind of came to me when talking to someone who I thought was saying things that weren't putting the community in the best of lights. And we had a back and forth, and they wound up blocking me. So I've hidden those videos now because I think if someone felt they needed to block me, there's no reason to drag them into anything else. I thought I was respectful, but again, sometimes we never know how we come across to other people, even when we're trying to come across a certain way. With that in mind, I want you guys to give me your honest opinion in this. So this is a new vocabulary term I came up with, and of course, it's a acronym. It is the acronym DICK, and I'm going to let it explain it. So here you guys go. We know there are people who are obsessed with showing off, you know. So we decided to use that to our advantage and make it an educational tool. Finally, here's a dick you can show off. It's an acronym. The D stands for discussion. The I is for input. The C is for communication, compassion, and care. And the K is for kindness. What is all this required in? A dynamic. As you should always discuss with your partner the things that work and don't work without fear. The input helps build the dynamic to be stronger and better fitting for all involved. Communication is something that is needed. It is something that goes beyond input and allows you to discuss the finer points of everything involved. Compassion matters when we need to realize that our partners aren't perfect and that sometimes they're going to have bad days. And care is something we all need and is required for the dynamic to stay healthy. And kindness, well, do you know what the definition of kindness is? I bet you did not know that this is one of them. Here's the actual definition: quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. And consideration should always be taken when we deal with things that need consent. The only reason that the C also doesn't stand for consent is because when in a dynamic, we're assuming that you've already gotten this. This is a tool for tune ups and continued growth in a dynamic, not how you build a dynamic. You have to have a dick in your dynamic to make sure that it continues to grow. And remember, without consent, there is no dynamic. And as one final friendly reminder, communication is not always verbal. Sometimes our bodies communicate a lot. So never miss the opportunity to look at your partner's communication through their body. Don't discredit that. It means a lot more than anyone realizes. Body language matters. So look for what excites your partner and what makes them go limp in play. We know there are people who are obsessed with showing off, you know. All right, so I just want to go over. So there's me. Let's go back to it. So this is one that is kind of a swing for me, and I'm not going to lie. It it's one of those things where, like, I'm hoping people get the joke behind this. I hope people get that this is meant because people will remember it. And I think those things are important to remember. I wanted to make something that, well, some people obsess about and think about a lot. And I wanted it to be something that we could discuss and have conversations about. This week was very busy with me with Hurricane Milton. So it was definitely not the most productive week of conversations, um, because of the hurricane being so distracting. And we're going to try to give you guys more content if that's okay. We're going to aim for more videos every day. So I'm kind of excited to bring you more content, and I hope you guys like that. This is a way to, we're also going to test if it'll help grow the channel and all that stuff, because we want more interaction. And I'm very happy that so many of you guys have been so supportive of us in this journey. So I definitely want feedback from you guys about what you guys think about the DICK acronym. And is it a step too far? Is it something that is okay? That's kind of funny. I get the joke and humor behind it, but it's also valuable. And I think that's what diaper was. Diaper was trying to get a word that you wouldn't easily forget. And well, this came out this week, so we'll give it a look. Welcome to Kinky Vocabulary. Today we're going to talk about the acronym DIAPER. DIAPER stands for Did I Ask Permission Extensively with Recognition. This acronym was created by Mr. Anderson in 2024. An offshoot of his original acronym, DIPE, Did I Ask Permission, he felt adding and finishing the word would make it more clever. And I know that because this is the voice of Mr. Anderson. So let me explain this just a little deeper. DIPE stands for itself really well. Did I ask permission? It's why I originally didn't go with diaper. But in this date and time, I figured let's go with diaper. Because I always say if you don't use DIPE, you're going to get shit all over you. Now I can say if you don't use diaper, you're going to get shit all over you instead of containing it. What do I mean by that? By asking permission extensively with recognition, you're making sure that there is no shit anywhere except in negotiation, which is, for the metaphor here, is exactly what we're going for. You want to contain it, make sure it doesn't go anywhere, and get rid of all the shit immediately that might get in the way of play by asking permission. Most of this is pretty self-explanatory. Did I ask permission? Permission is also the way that we get consent. You have to ask permission to do something to obtain consent. That is why it wasn't originally DIASC. Plus, that wouldn't have made a lot of sense. We ask permission for consent and then obtain consent. And I think a lot of times we forget that. Everyone says get consent. They forget that you have to ask permission to get consent. I wanted to stress that when we first made this word, or acronym, I should say. Extensively means going out of your way to explain the safety behind it, the plan behind it, your experience, the risks behind it. and making sure that you are admitting your past experiences doing it and what kind of level you would self-proclaim yourself to be at this type of play or action you want to do. Recognition is an interesting one. Recognition is saying that you actually took the time to ask questions of each other, made sure everyone was on the same page, and acknowledge the concerns of the other party. Only through diaper can you obtain consent because all the shit that could happen is contained inside the diaper, and outside of it, we're left with nothing but good old fashioned 100% consent. We're basically getting rid of the shit and making sure we're obtaining cleanly consent. Welcome to Kinky Vocabulary. Today we're going to talk about the acronym diaper. Now, I cannot stress this enough, and I think we're going to end our video today. The future ones might be a little longer. We might cover more stuff, and you guys can always check in, not just with our site, kinkforall.site, which will archive this in a way, and you'll see other topics. I think we're going to do the TPE timeouts before we go, because this was something a lot of people were grateful for. So real quick video, and then I'll wrap this up. I wanted to go over this comment from Cletus's, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, thoughts on the matter. And go back and look at the whole video for more information. They said, if you are in a TPE dynamic and your partner will not renegotiate with you and step outside of that dynamic to do it, run. And this goes back to even what my partner let me know just this year, something called porch time. And that is the ability to step out of your dynamic for as it was explained to me, for them, the people explaining it, literally went outside to their porch at their home and they would discuss things without worrying about it interfering with their particular dynamic. I think it's very important to acknowledge that it doesn't have to be porch time for you. You guys can just have a word. And it's like a timeout without it being punishable for anyone. It's respecting the ongoing TPE, which, by the way, vocabulary word, TPE is also an acronym. Not really a word in this case, but TPE, some of us realize what it is. It's an acronym that means total power exchange, sort of like 24/7. And it has the dynamics, the build-ins. It doesn't always have to be 24/7, especially if you don't live with each other. It's just a total power exchange where you're giving your partner total power over you, but it can be a limited total power. They could have total power over you in the way they want to punish you constantly, control certain aspects of your life. Nothing, even 24/7, ever has to mean complete control. And here are two great reasons that TPE and the 24/7 doesn't cross over. A lot of times when it comes to children, especially if they're not your children and you're in a dynamic with someone who's already a parent, and or their jobs. So there are two great examples of how it doesn't always translate the way that most people fantasize about it. And there are other aspects of people's lives that might the other person, the S type, might not want to have the control put onto them over that particular thing. And renegotiation should always happen. Conversation should always happen. Check-in should happen, not just during play, but over your overall dynamic, and to keep the health of your dynamic strong. People change, people evolve. We're never the same person we start out to be in life, and we're always going to change. And sometimes our needs will vary at times, and they might swing back later to those initial needs. Wonderful comment. Thought it needed to be highlighted, and definitely run. Same thing if someone says you don't need a safe word. Even in the TPE dynamic, total power exchange dynamic, you still need a word to get out, and you need the porch time or whatever you call it for you guys to literally take some time away. And it can be just a funny word that you don't normally say, like banana time. Just make sure you don't just say banana, but banana time, or they'll pass you a banana. I wanted to go over this comment from. All right, so not a great stop screen, but we're just about at 20 minutes, and I just wanted to take a moment of acknowledgement for myself and the channel. I became a kink educator because I was made aware of my compellers. And if you don't know what a compeller is, you can go to our channel. The simpler thing is compeller falls between kink and fetish. Kink is something that is just considered outside of the vanilla realm of doing things that have to do with partners or by yourself, actually. And it can have a sexual component or might not. That's for your choosing. A compeller is something that is you're compelled by to have in your life. That's kind of an action, like I'm compelled by tying women up, bondage. My sadist side is something I'm compelled by. It's something I need in my life. So it's more than a kink. It's something that drives me. And a fetish is basically a compeller with a sexual element. But I keep trying to come up with these new things. I'm doing the best I can. Like I said, I was very young when this hit me. I was. I'll just leave it with it. It came. The awareness came with puberty, and puberty hit very early for me, and it was a very confusing time, and there was a lot going on in my life, and I felt scared of who I was, and I've never forgotten that. I've started groups on various sites all the way back to AOL and Yahoo, where I actually created groups and we talked about safety with BDsM very early on. So I started to understand concepts by the time I was 18 that were well beyond what people were talking about, because it was a very vanilla world. And as I got older, I became a voice with things. And actually, at one point, I kind of stepped back from it because I was helping a lot of people who had been through abuse, but I wasn't, no one ever taught me how to do that. And it does weigh on you when a lot of people come to you and you're just like, why are so many people taking advantage? Of course, I would learn later that it's not a lot of people, it's generally a group that does it continuously to people, which is even worse. Our lifestyle is not inherently safe, and it's not safe because in certain ways the communities aren't willing to take action because everyone wants to hide in the shadows and no one wants accountability, which is scary as hell. So it's very clear that this type of education is needed. I have studied it from news to reading books to reading medical what do they call them, not medical tests, medical studies on BDsM, including proving that there really is subspace. So I've spent a lot of my life being compelled by this and exploring it and trying to understand it and make sense of something that terrified me when I first realized what it was. And I remember back in the day, this was before the internet, it was 1990, probably 91. I would go to the library to read things about this. And this is at a point before there was even a term BDSM being published, and it was bondage. Bondage was this first word that I realized was that. And I started to understand things, and I would read a medical text in the next couple of years. And I think at this point BDSM became like also recognized as a medical term because it wound up in the DSM, and it said that we were problematic people and we were problems, and there's something wrong with us, and it wasn't a good look. It's gotten better over the years, and of course we now know that it's about therapy. But I have studied, learned, still go to classes. I know a lot of other educators don't go to other classes. They've now drank their own Kool-Aid and think their way is the only way. For 30 years, it isn't my way. I am nervous making these videos. I'm always nervous to make a mistake. I'm always nervous to let you all down. I do the best I can. Our language keeps evolving, and there's not like a weekly memo that we all subscribe to. And as much as I call this a kinky campus, we're not accredited. We're not something that will be the stamp. And I don't know if we'll ever get to a point where there's a stamp for everything, because BDSM is not a one size fits all, and we all experience it in a slightly different way. So it's so complex that while I am the kink educator on TikTok, and that's just because that's the name I went with, I shouldn't be the only educator you have. Yes, I have decades of experience and understand nuances of things. And it's kind of that weird thing where people can talk about it. And I've gone to a lot of classes and I can ask one question that will completely throw off an educator because they weren't ready for it. And that always tells me what kind of educators in the room with me. I remember, here's a perfect one. And this should still hold, and we don't talk about this enough, and I maybe should just make this a standalone video. When I first got into this, one of the big things was when you're introducing someone to bondage, you shouldn't keep them in for a long time because they don't understand what's happening to their bodies sometimes. Sometimes there's so much endorphins, maybe they're hitting subspace, they don't realize something's going really numb, or they can't feel something, or they've pulled a muscle. So you kind of timed how long you tied someone up for the first time. Now you have people brand new to the scene jumping into a suspension, and they're up there for 45 minutes and come down with wrist drop, which is a condition where you can't feel your wrist because you've cut off you can't move your wrist right because you can't feel your wrist the right way because your nerves were cut off in the way you were tied. There's so much that gets lost. I'm going to put out as much education as I can. You guys have to make the choice to listen to it and go further. Listen to other creators, Evie Lupine, and anyone else you can find. Moxie on TikTok. Evie Lupine, by the way, can be found on YouTube. And it should be more. And we even have a thing on Kink for All where you can suggest a creator. Now, I might look into that educational creator of kink education just because I think some people teach it in a way that can become problematic and dangerous. That being said, I should not be the authority. I don't want to be the authority. I want to be able to be challenged by you. If you guys want to say something about what we're talking about, please step up to the mic and say something, or in the comment section, send me an email, send me a message, and let's have deeper conversations. With that, I open the floor to you guys in the comment section to tell me what you want to see in the future. Is there a particular day you want these loaded up? Would you like a live format or pre-recorded video? Because I can do pre-recorded with these as well. And just let me know. Let me know what you guys want, because I'm going to take that feedback and I'm going to make this the best show I can, make the entire online campus as friendly as it can be, and get you the information you want. And I definitely hope that the kinkforall.site is a site that you use for your kink information. With that said, I'm going to send you all back to the vanilla world for a little while, and I look forward to seeing you again behind the forbidden door.